Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Crownsmen Show. Joining us today from Wajax, their CEO, Iggy Domagalski. I'm excited to have him join. We will be learning about Iggy's journey from Tundra Processing to Wajax, and what could be Canada's next billion-dollar heavy industry company in Canada. Great to have you back, Iggy. And if you could just get into kind of that journey from Tundra Process Solutions and now to your new role in Wajax, that'd be a great place to start.
Sure. Thanks, Rory. Happy to take you through that a little bit. Um, it was May of 2020, which was a bit of a weird time in the world. And at that time, I got a call from a gentleman by the name of Mark Foote, who was the previous CEO at Wajax. And he said, "Hey, you know what? It's a little bit of an odd time right now, but would you be interested in selling? And we've been looking at you guys from afar for a number of years, and I just wanted to reach out here." And um, initially, I wasn't. We had no interest. When I thought of Wajax, I thought of a company that sold excavators and forklifts, and Tundra was a distributor and value-added service company for motors and boilers and valve and little pieces that went into a fixed plant, which is quite a different offering. It really didn't seem to fit. But the more research I did about Wajax, I found out that they were actually building up this industrial products and parts and services business for the past decade that I just didn't know anything about, and that our business for Tundra was actually a perfect fit into the whole Wajax umbrella. And so, kind of one thing led to another. The conversations continued, and we came to a deal. And then we started to work really hard to make it happen. And around Christmas of 2020, we announced that we would be doing this transaction. So our company was. I think there was, like always, a little bit of shock when a transaction is announced. But the promises from Wajax were that Tundra would get to keep operating as it had always operated, using its name and its culture and its brand. And to date, all those promises have really remained intact, and the folks are still happy there, and the company continues to run under Tundra. So a couple months after Tundra was acquired by Wajax, I got another phone call from Mark, the CEO, and said, "Hey, I'm planning on retiring at the end of the year," which was still a ways away. That was March of 2021. So we had another 9-10 months. And
Okay.
he asked if I was interested in putting my name on the list of people to be considered. There was a few internal candidates and a bunch of external candidates. And I thought it was just a really great personal growth opportunity, because they hire this company to really do a deep dive on you, like a deep 360. They ended up checking 9 references, a lot of psychometrics tests. They had some psychologists that were kind of assigned to the file that
Really?
were that were examining me and asking me all sorts of questions about when I was 12 years old and how my family life was and what the influences on
Oh, they go
my.
back. They go back into that whole process.
Oh,
Or
absolutely, yeah. It goes pretty deep. They're psychologists, right? So they want to know how your memories were formed and how your behaviors were formed. So it was
right.
just such a fascinating process to go through. And then eventually I was offered the position to be the new guy that's running Wajax, and I was happy to accept that. And that was announced about 6 months ago, and then I took over officially on January 1st of 2022. So I've been in the role a little over 3 months now, and I'm loving it. In terms of context, like size context,
Yeah.
Wajax is a much bigger company than Tundra. We do some similar work, but Tundra was about 150 people,
Okay.
and Wajax is 2,800 people. We're a Canadian-only company. We have 115 branches across Canada, and our two main businesses are a heavy equipment business, which is the selling and servicing and aftermarket for excavators and forklifts and forestry equipment, basically big heavy machinery with wheels.
Right.
And then the other half of our business is this industrial products, parts and services business. That's where Tundra fits in. And that's all the little pieces that you need to make any kind of a facility run, whether it be a gas plant or some kind of mining operation or a factory or a school. You need a lot of equipment to make those places run, and we supply pretty much anything that fits into that. So yeah, so that's a bit of of my journey, I was at Tundra for a long time, and it was really time for some of that management team to move up and step up into their next level of their career. So
Right.
when I was able to take this step, a bunch of them were able to move up, and that worked out really well. They're all really happy. I still have an office in the Tundra building, so I'm there a lot. But the
Okay.
head Yeah, but the head office for Wajax is based out of Mississauga. So, and I live in Calgary, and I'm continuing to live in Calgary. So I'm out in Ontario twice a month for a few days just to check in with our team there. And I'm also traveling across the country a lot to visit
Right.
all of our 115 offices. So I hope to get to all of them eventually, but that's a lot of
That's
places to get to, and some of them are pretty remote.
right, right. Yeah, so that's been quite a journey since 2020 then. That'll happen pretty quickly. I guess actually you touched a little bit of the service offerings too. So do you want to get into we'll get into probably well, I have some questions about like the acquisition part. Actually, you did mention something with Tundra. So they still run independently, even though it's under the Wajax name now. It's is that still basically, is it independent? Is that the strategy with that acquisition then?
Yeah, that's a good question, Rory. So the short answer is yes. Tundra continues to run as an independent company. It's its own separate corporation, so it's it would be a subsidiary of Wajax, and Wajax is its parent company.
Yes.
And there was no change for our customers. When our folks get their paychecks, they still say Tundra Process Solutions on them, and no changes in any contracts with our suppliers or anything like that. And the brand continues, and the same great service that our customers were expecting before. It was completely seamless for them. The only things that have changed, which I think are for the better, are some of the things in the back end. So Wajax had a more robust safety program, and safety is one of our core values. So
Yep.
so we're happy to implement some of that program into Tundra just to make it a safer and better company.
Yes.
Um, and integrating some of the things that you would expect, like IT, for an example. Wajax has a more robust IT service offering and a different platform, so Tundra is migrating onto that. So the things that made sense we did, but all the things that made Tundra unique and special, we wanted to leave those, because like, why go into a business that's doing pretty good
Yeah.
and change a bunch of things just to change them? So the plan for Tundra is to continue to run it as Tundra and integrate some of those back office functions when it makes sense.
Alrighty, so let's take a moment to thank our sponsors for this episode. First up, we have Dayquip. Dayquip specializes in the design and manufacturing of attachments for all makes and models of compact excavators, wheel loaders, crawler dozers, and articulated dump trucks. You can choose from any of their engineered attachments, or they can design and build to your specifications. All of their products can be shipped anywhere in North America, hassle-free. If you don't see it, just ask and they will build it. You can check out their website at dayquip.com or email them info@dayquip.com. You can also call them toll free 1-844-882-8008 for sales, quotes, and support. Next up, we have Edge Eyewear. Edge designs stylish, quality, and affordable safety eyewear that's as fit for the weekend as the workday. Edge's safety glasses and sunglasses are ANSI or CSA compliant, come ready with modern technology, and are comfortable enough to offer all-day protection. And they've been delivering a better safety glass since 1998. Visit edgeeyewear.com to learn more and save 20% with code CROWN20. Next up, we also have OptiSize. OptiSize is a leading edge geophysical acquisition design and software company. OptiSize provides innovative seismic survey designs utilizing the latest field technology and optimizing for advanced processing and quantitative interpretation techniques. OptiSize's mission is to bring sustainable exploration solutions to energy development with their custom land footprint reduction technology, EcoSize. EcoSize enables operators to focus on reducing their environmental and greenhouse gas footprint while imaging all their subsurface targets and reducing costs. Please visit optisize.com to learn more. Next up, we also have Zero Knox. Zero Knox is the global leader in electric powertrain solutions, microgrids, and clean technology. They provide a platform for clean energy technology to come to market through powertrain solutions, development partnerships, and electrification kit solutions for conversions, all powered by Zero Knox. Their mission is to empower communities through sustainable innovation as they partner with some of the world's leading OEMs to solve challenges across multiple continents with cleaner and higher performing technology, empowering a clean, innovative, and higher performing future without compromise. Visit them at zeronox.com to learn more. Next up, we have SolarSet. Introducing the SolarSet Fold, the new foldable frame solar system brings power to your residential and commercial property and can be shipped worldwide. Like all SolarSet products, the SolarSet Fold comes turnkey, pre-assembled, and is easily transported and installed. Learn more about the SolarSet Fold and their full line of amazing solar systems at solarset.com. And last but not least, we have Fenner Dunlop. Fenner Dunlop S-Flex belts are engineered to withstand the harshest applications, delivering benefits that solve customer problems via superior rip, tear, and impact resistance. S-Flex are extremely strong and robust belts that are difficult to destroy, which is important for heavy-duty bulk material handling environments. Made in their very own North American manufacturing facilities, this revolutionary concept in straight warp conveyor belting is up to 3 times more impact resistant versus competitor belting. Flex users use fewer belts per year, make fewer belt repairs and replacements, reduce or eliminate belt downtime, and improve employee safety. Visit FennerDunlopAmericas.com to learn more about their premium Flex conveyor belting. Now let's get back to the interview.
On that safety side, you said about that implementation. Is there like an example of something that gets implemented that you can say publicly or share publicly? That that's a big thing now. Obviously, you don't want to be losing man hours. You don't want people injured on the job. Do you have an example of something that was able to be implemented because of that acquisition?
Rory, around safety, there's never one big thing, right? It's a combination of hundreds of little things that you do day in and day out to make your company a safer and better place. A couple small examples. Wajax had a better branch auditing system than Tundra did, so we implemented that. Wajax had some better functionality about tracking the safety of our workers and their vehicles, so we implemented that. So those are just a couple little examples, but it's all those 100 little examples that all add up to the company being, a safe company with a better than average safety record.
Right. And you did get into the setup for Wajax a little bit. Maybe if you can get into on your services and your product lines, maybe if you just give a bit more of an overview too of some of those core and key partnerships that Wajax deals with across Canada. I think that'd be a good, definitely helpful for the audience to know that.
Sure, Rory, I'd be happy to share that. So if we think about the heavy equipment business, our major partner in that area is Hitachi, which I think is a brand that most people have heard of. And so when you drive down the highway and you see Hitachi excavators on the side of the highway doing construction work, those would have come through the Wajax. So we sell those. We have dozens of shops across the country that can service those, and we have close to 1,000 technicians that can come out and fix your gear at your site. Same with our, we call it material handling, but basically forklifts. And the brand that we are partnered with on an exclusive basis is Heister Yale, who are a wonderful company and have been a longtime partner of Wajax. And then in our heavy engine business, we're partnered with Rolls-Royce MTU. So they provide big giant engines for either what we would call on-highway power, so for big trucks, or for off-highway power, which would be just like power generation that's stationary. Could be like a big diesel backup generator, that kind of equipment. So those are kind of some of the major heavy equipment categories that we have. And again, we do the sales, the service, and all the aftermarket, and kind of whatever happens to that machine in its life cycle, Wajax could take care of it for you.
Is that part of it? So when somebody comes to Wajax, they get their Hitachi, they're going to be coming back on the services side. You've got parts, you've got maintenance and all that. Wajax is able to basically service that entire lifespan of the machine.
Absolutely. I believe that the days of the distributor that, you pick up the phone and say, hey, what's the part number, sell them the product and don't service it. I really think those days are over, especially in industrial equipment. You have to be able to not only I mean, selling the gear for sure, you have to be able to do that in a good way, but you have to have the parts available. You have to have great service technicians that can fix the gear if it's broken, or start it up, or commission it and do preventive maintenance. Um, so you kind of need all that, and we have all that, and we've had that for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The I could go on with Rolls Royce. Has Rolls Royce? Have you been dealing? Has Wajax been? Has that been a long term partnership as well? Going a
Yeah,
little bit off topic there, but
yeah, it's one of Rolls Royce's divisions. That's called MTU,
okay.
and
Oh, right.
we've been a partner of theirs for a long time.
Okay,
And
fantastic.
then the other side of our business, that's that industrial products and parts and services business.
Right.
And so that would be all the little bits that go into a facility, any kind of plant that makes anything, factories. They just have a lot of equipment, and so examples of that kind of equipment would be motors that spin machines, or that move conveyor belts, or spin crushers. We have a full lineup of hydraulic equipment, of filtration equipment, pumps, bearings, power transmission equipment. Those are the types of pieces of equipment that we would sell. We have whole service teams that can service them. We would obviously have all the spare parts and replacement parts for all of those.
Yeah.
And then we have a business that we call engineered repaired services. But if outside of our business, it would probably just be called value added services. And that's where we can take all those bits and actually make some kind of final product that's really custom for our customer. And that's I think one of the unique value propositions that Wajax has. Like, we can take a
Right.
bunch of pieces, put them together, and create a package or a module that really solves a customer's really specific problem. So that's the other half of our business.
So that's like that's your design team basically working with the end user, then figuring out exactly what they need built, and then you're kind of assembling all that. Do I have that sort of correct?
Yeah, that's correct, Rory. So we wouldn't want to be confused with like an engineering company, because we're not an engineering company, but we do have engineers on staff that help
Right.
our customers, just kind of create the final product that they can, that they can take and plug into their operation.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. On your website, I did notice like there is a lot. You have a lot of. I guess they're not. I don't know if they're distribution. It sounds like more like they're partnerships with all these different brands, like on like the products and services. Is that
Yep.
those? They must have been set up over like decades of time, because there's some very well known and established brands like on every aspect, which I didn't realize with Wajax. So is that always growing as well, that portfolio?
Yeah, but, going back to the comment where, I didn't realize that about Wajax. I was the same way. I had no idea that they even had this business. And within Wajax, it's a good sized business. It's a $700 million business.
Yeah.
And I just didn't know that it existed. I had always thought of Wajax as this excavator and forklift company.
Yeah.
So yes, we're constantly growing that portfolio. In some areas, we would have what's called an exclusive distributorship, which means that for that type of product, we only buy from one supplier. So as an example, Wajax sells variable frequency drives, which is basically like a light switch to slow down and speed up a motor.
Right.
And our partner is Toshiba, and so we only buy Toshiba for that product, and Toshiba only sells to us in our territory.
Right.
And but then we also have other arrangements where we are a non-exclusive distributor. So we would have access to a number of products. And a good example of our business would be in our bearings or our valve business. We buy from multiple suppliers, and those suppliers would sell through us, and sometimes through others as well in our territory.
I don't know if we touched on it. How long or how old now is Wajax as well in Canada? How many years have they been in business?
It's another thing that I didn't know about Wajax. It's one of Canada's oldest companies. So Wajax was founded in 1858.
Incredible.
So it actually started as a blacksmith business in Montreal, and has grown into what it is today. And so we're in our 165th year of business, and that makes us 9 years older than Canada, which is pretty cool. So we've been around for a long time, and it hasn't always looked this way. Obviously, started off as a blacksmith shop, and now it's something different.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've been around for a long time, really helping kind of power the country and grow the country. We're there since the beginning.
So getting back into Hitachi a little bit, I saw one of your news releases about basically like an increased partnership with Hitachi. Could you explain that a little bit in a little bit more as well?
Sure thing, Rory. Happy to. So Wajax has been partnered up with Hitachi for a long time, many decades, and those relationships evolve over time. Hitachi is, by the way, Wajax's largest manufacturing partner, and we operate on an exclusive
Oh,
basis,
okay.
meaning that if you're buying a Hitachi machine in Canada, you're buying it through Wajax. And but the last 20 years of that relationship were odd. And what had happened was 20 years ago, Hitachi and Deere had partnered up, and Deere's another large, fantastic company, but a
Mhm.
competitor. And so they had this unique joint venture where they thought that if we build all of our similar equipment in one factory, we'll be able to save a lot of money and we can have better pricing, and then we can grow our market share, and eventually we'll split up again. But for the time being, we think together we can build a better market share. And it was a good model, and it was good for 20 years for them, for the Hitachi and Deere joint venture. But Deere never really wanted Wajax to succeed, but they were a part of this joint venture, and that's okay. We did our best, and we did our best to service our customers, but we didn't always have the 100% support from this joint venture manufacturing entity that we were buying from. And
Right.
as of March 1st of 2022, that joint venture has been split up, and Deere is now going off on its own, and Hitachi went off on its own. And
Oh,
now we're dealing straight with Hitachi, which means a bunch of things. It means better access to inventory for Wajax. For Wajax, it means better customer service levels, and and better access to aftermarket service and parts. So it'll be just a better customer experience for our customers, and a better, more solid business relationship between Wajax and Hitachi. So it's kind of a win for everyone, really. It's a win for Hitachi, it's a win for Wajax, and it's a win for all of our customers. So
of course.
um, it just started very, very recently. So we're really, really pumped for the future here with Hitachi, because it's a wonderful, wonderful change that we've been waiting a long time for.
That's fantastic to hear then. Yeah, it's good, especially being a Canadian business. It sounds like there's going to be a lot of potential for growth coming up as well in the next decades to come. The I mean, you were on the other side of it for the acquisition with Tundra. Is that going to be something now, as your role as CEO? Is that going to be something you're looking at doing as well to potentially get even more market share in Canada?
Now, that's a good question too, Rory, and the answer to that is yes. So within that industrial products, parts, and services business that we have,
Yeah.
that's where the acquisition opportunity really exists.
Okay.
And so if we look at the Canadian market for those industrial parts and services, it's about a $10 billion market. That's what we estimate it to be at. And it's made up of a fragmented large number of companies. Some of them are really small, a few employees, and others might be kind of 100 or more employees, but mostly they're smaller and mid-size.
Okay.
And so it's a $10 billion market, and Wajax has 700 million of that market. So we have about a 7% market share.
Right.
And I think we can grow that a lot, both organically and through acquisition.
Yeah.
And that's what we'll continue to do. So over the past 4 or so years, Wajax has invested about 175 million in acquisition capital. Of Tundra was included in that amount, and Tundra is more than half that amount.
Right.
But since Tundra, we've actually done two other small tuck-in acquisitions. One was a small valve shop in Fort St. John, and another one was a small pump company in Thunder Bay. And we're continuing to do those. So we have a list of companies that we're always looking at, that we're talking to, and sometimes the big ones come along, like a Tundra, or
Yeah.
DeLome is another larger company that we bought a number of years ago.
Okay.
But we'll continue to do the smaller tuck-in ones where they make sense.
Yeah.
And then as the big ones come along, we'll do those as well. So acquisitions are for sure a really exciting and important part of our growth strategy. And we want to, notch up that 7% market share higher and higher.
Yeah.
And as a company, Wajax is a publicly traded company
Right.
on the Toronto Stock Exchange. So if you want to learn anything about Wajax, like it's super transparent. You can see
Yeah.
everything. If you read our annual report or any of our quarterly filings, like you know exactly what our revenues were, how much money we made, how much money we have in the bank. Like you can know all those things pretty
Yeah.
easily because you might be a potential investor, so you need to know those things.
Absolutely.
So all that information is there, and if you look at that information, you can see that our balance sheet is in a really good place right now. We have lots of capacity to go buy businesses, and that's what we want to do. So that's what we're doing.
That's exciting to hear, especially for potential shareholders or all people that are already shareholders. That's actually a good lead in, because looking at the like kind of a broad like 10-year picture of Wajax with the financials, I've noticed like even the free cash flow the last couple of years when we had all the funky stuff going on and it was a tougher environment, you actually generated like over $100 million in free cash flow, both in 2020 and 2021. Was that because of, in part due to the acquisitions, or was there just so much demand?
Yeah, that's a good question, Rory. That was not related to acquisitions. That was just that's attributed to our team running a good business.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So in 2021, we actually generated 190 million in cash flow from operations, which was a great year. And we had a few past mistakes. We had kind of overloaded on our construction inventory a little bit, so we were working that down to a more manageable level, which we did. And as you sell off your inventory, that generates a bit of cash.
Yeah.
Our teams were really good on receivables and payables and managing all of those. And plus, the company did well, so we earned money, so that all contributed to the cash flow. So really kudos to the team just for running a great business. I took over on January 1st, so I had nothing to do with 2021.
Right.
I just get to report on the results, so I can't take any credit for that. But yeah, the business is it's a good cash generating business, as many distributors are. Like we don't have a ton of fixed assets that we just, we don't have huge factories that we have to keep pouring money into.
Right.
We're not an R&D company that requires us to, dump a bunch of money into, high processing power and developing code and developing things like that. That's just, we're a distributor and service company, and those businesses just tend to have a pretty high cash flow yield.
Yeah, that's a good point. Looking like for your company too, when you look at like the margins, they're obviously going to be smaller with the model that Wajax is set up under. With the service side, is that where you see a chance where, well, for one, capturing more of the market share, but also is there potential there even on the margin side to see that go up over time as well, do you think?
That's a good question too, Rory. I mean, if you look at any distributor business for anything, it could be a car distributor, like your local car dealership for Ford or Chrysler or whatever brand. Those businesses that they're higher margin businesses like ours would be the service business and the parts business. Like you often make a little bit less on the equipment just to get it into the customer's hands, and then when you're billing out your technicians or you're selling them spare replacement parts, those tend to be at a little bit higher margin. So growing we just call it product support, but basically that's the billable hours to fix things and the spare parts that go along with that. That's for sure an area that we are actively concentrating on growing, just because the margins are good, and we hope to see our margin profile to continue to improve. With that said, in 2021, our margins were up about 2% over the previous year, which is that's 2% it just seems like 2%, but 2% across the whole big company, it's a massive improvement. So we were pretty proud of that.
Well, especially considering the fact, I mean, it's doing over 1.6 billion in revenue now, and there's a lot more to capture. So I mean, that's all good. That's all good. That's all a good sign for shareholders, I would imagine, especially now even the net income that's starting to grow as well. There's a couple little blips here. I think they correlate probably with around 2014 when there was the oil crash, but that's kind of always going to happen with these types of businesses, I would think. You just have to plan accordingly.
Yeah, and it's it's hard to plan for an oil crash because you never really know when they're coming.
No.
But I think our company has been pretty good at managing through those times. I was not here during those times,
Of course. Right.
and our previous CEO, Mark Foote, he just did an incredible job of setting this company up to be on such good, solid footing right now. And so I think the company is in a stronger position really than it's ever been. Like we've got our balance sheet is good. We got a lot of positivity going on in our heavy equipment business around this
Yeah.
Hitachi transition. That's a huge positive thing. And then in our industrial products, parts, and services business, there's so much acquisition and organic growth opportunity that it's just silly. And I often get asked, do you think you'll take the business to the US? So of our 2,800 employees, I think all but one are in Canada. That's where we focus our business. And my
Really.
answer to that is, never say never, but we just see so much opportunity in Canada to grow our business that we don't think we need to go to the US, where we offer far less value as a company anyway. So I really think the future is quite bright.
Before we get into like the people and the culture that you're looking at bringing to Wajax, on your with Wajax servicing across Canada, is like obviously you have mining, you have oil and gas, you have construction. Are those kind of all the big? Are those all the big industries that Wajax serves, or is there some other outliers that you're seeing start picking up growth as well?
Yeah, good question, Rory. Thank you. We, as Wajax, we really serve all industries pretty much. Any industry that needs equipment, we would serve. So some of our larger industries would be the ones that you would expect. They would be the heavy resource-based industries, which are mining, oil and gas, forestry, metals and minerals. So those are some of our large groups of customers. We have a large presence in transportation, and then in all levels of government. We have a pretty good footprint in manufacturing. We have a pretty good footprint in food and beverage, in automotive. So we kind of serve all industries. We have 32,000 active customers that we serve.
32,000. That's impressive.
So it's a lot. So I don't think there's actually too many companies in Canada, except for the really small ones, that we wouldn't serve. Like every major company almost for sure buys something from Wajax.
With that customer list, it just right there you realize, I mean, there's going to be some that are bigger, but you'll see some companies that have like one customer doing like 10%. I would presume with a Wajax that's not the case, because you're in all those industries basically, kind of keeping Canada running basically.
Yeah, that's what we like to think. And we don't really have, we have large customers, but one customer would never be 10% of our business. That's just what we're much more diversified.
Right. Well, that's been really good. Probably transitioning here into, since you came into being the CEO, with the people and the culture, how many people were in Tundra? 150, you said?
150 people, and then 2,800 at Wajax. So much bigger beast.
Yeah.
And it's harder to get to that many people. Within Tundra, we had 4 offices. I could walk around all the offices and kind of see most people and talk to them. It's much harder to do that in a larger organization. So that's a unique challenge and a fun opportunity that I'm playing with. But yeah, people are your most important thing that you have in a company. So I'm excited to get to work on that.
Have you learned? You're 3 months in, right? You've been at it since you've taken over as CEO.
Yes.
So with managing those large teams, is there certain things you can do right off the bat to start? I mean, I know you said you were going to try and travel to all the locations eventually, but what do you do to connect, like right now that you are the new face of the company? What's that learning process been like?
Yeah, that's a good question too. What I've been doing initially is really just trying to communicate with as many people as I can. So sometimes that's small meetings with 10 leaders on a Teams call who are across the country just talking about the future. Other times it's jumping on a company-wide town hall, which we do online as well. And we get a good portion of our people on those, so able to really communicate with a lot of them. We do some written communication. So I kind of try to hit them, in all the different communication mediums that they like. I know some people dial into the calls, others don't. I know some people like to get it through their email, others don't. I know some people will just follow my LinkedIn feed for information, because that's how they like to get
That's a great
information.
feed.
So
Yeah, that's a
some,
great feed to follow as
yeah,
well.
or sometimes on a podcast, right? So,
Yes.
so I'm trying just to kind of do all the different communication media that I can, so that that I find the right one for each individual person. Not everyone likes email, not everyone likes videos. So so just trying to catch them that way. And then one of the things I'm really most excited about is to work on like a common vision and a common set of core values across the company. It's something that we don't have at the moment.
I see.
And I think those are, they're so important. And sometimes they're overused a little bit, vision and values, but it sounds like this mystical thing. But,
Right.
we did that at Tundra. It was very clear what they were and what our long-term vision was. And I think that gave people a bit of a guiding, like a North Star that they could follow. And
Right.
it helped us make better decisions. So when we were faced with a business opportunity decision or a culture decision or HR decision or whatever the decision was, we would ask, does this line up with our long-term vision? If it didn't, the conversation was over. And is this consistent with our core values? And if it wasn't, then the conversation was over. And it really helped us say no to a lot of things that didn't match up with where we were going. And that's something that is my right at the top of my priority list for Wajax, just to get that sorted out.
Right.
And initially, I need to learn more about the company before we really set those things in place. So initially, I'm just learning. My first 3 months were learning about just some of the new things that I had not experienced in my role before. I had not run a publicly traded company before,
Right.
and that's different. There's things that you have to do around the board of directors, around investors, around quarterly analyst calls that were all kind of new to me. So not kind of new, totally new to me. And so I have an awesome team that was really helping prep me for all of those things. But that was the first quarter. So that's what I've been doing the last 3 months. And then I, in Q2 here, it's spending time with some of our owners and our investors and understanding what they like and don't like about our company, and getting back on the road and going and visiting our people in their branches and just talking to them about the future. And I've been trying to let them know. Sometimes new leaders come in and you just don't know what to expect, right? Like there's some people are let's bring out the knife and start cutting stuff up and cutting people out and downsizing and right sizing, whatever you want to call it. If we need to do that, I'll do that. But that's not what we need. And I think people need to hear that. I think our folks want to know that the company's continuing on.
Yeah.
Not that much is changing. We're advancing with the same strategy. But my long-term focus and what they'll start to see more of in the business from an internal perspective is just more focus on our people, more focus on leadership development, more focus on people development and culture development. And all of that, I think, leads to your brand. I just have this belief that we're entrusted with the lives of all these people. It's 2,800 people and their families, and we're entrusted with their lives. And we have them for give or take like 40 hours a week. We have them longer than anybody has them.
Yes.
If they belong to some kind of church, the church has them for 1 or 2 hours a week. We got them for 40 hours.
Really.
We have them for more time than they're with their spouse. We have them for more time than they're with their kids, than their friends, anything. And I think there's, a bit of a moral obligation with that. And as a business, you have the ability to send your people home fulfilled and happy and proud of the work that they do, and in a positive work environment, or the opposite. Or you can send them home pissed off and angry. And if they go home pissed off and angry, it translates into how they talk to their family, and it translates into what they do in their community. And if they're negative to those folks, that's going to come back to them the next morning, and they're going to bring that to work, and they're going to take that out on their coworkers and their customers and their suppliers. And it can be a pretty ugly cycle. But if you do send them home fulfilled and happy and feeling like their work matters, which it does, and showing them that it matters, they bring that positive energy home. And then they bring that positive energy to their kids and their spouse and their parents and their communities. And then that's a really positive cycle. So I really think the business can be one of the most powerful forces for good in the world. I don't know of another place that can do it as much, because we have people for such a major portion of their lives. So I think we have an obligation to do that, and that's what I'm setting out to do.
Yeah, it sounds like the word candor comes to mind, because you're really already, I mean, the thousands of people that will see this, you're kind of you're bringing that message very clearly, and it is something easy to overlook, that they are there for
Mhm.
just a huge portion of their lives, basically. So you kind of answered. So developing that culture, you talked about like the vision and the values. Is that, for a company this size, is that something that takes like 3 to 5 years, or is that something you can get in place? Like, will you receive feedback from all levels of the team and across, like basically across the country, to develop that, or how do you go about doing that?
That's a good question too, Rory. I so I think you got to separate them. Your vision is where the company is going, and ultimately that needs to be set by senior leadership, right? Like, you can't
Of
go
course.
talk to 2,800 people, many of them who are just so talented at their job, but the scope of their job is a little bit more narrow, right? So it would be hard for one of our heavy duty mechanics in Quebec to 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 have the knowledge about what do we want to do in all of our different businesses across the whole country. So in terms of vision, I think that one's got to be only led by senior leadership, which it will be. And that it can be kind of as fast as you want, and it can be depending on what input you want to get. I really want to get input from our board, a lot of input from our senior management, do a lot of reading, a lot of um, educating our team about what the future could be like before we make those decisions. So if we can get that done in 2022, that would be great. But if it takes a little longer, that's okay too. And then the values piece, I think that one is where you go a little further into the organization and ask those questions. And those are the questions about, how do we actually live in our business today? And we did that at Tundra. I really, really enjoyed the exercise. We engaged over 80% of our people in the exercise.
Okay.
We trained our staff to do focus groups. So we train a dozen people, and each one of them would take a dozen people and do a focus group with them. And so what we did is we started, uh, rather than giving everybody just a blank piece of paper and saying, what do you think our core values are?
Yeah.
Um, that's hard for people to just start from scratch. So our management team took a crack at what we thought some of our core values were. And then through these focus groups, we got feedback back from our teammates that were right on the front lines, kind of in the middle lines. And we got some great feedback. In some of the cases, they said, yes, that's a core value. We live that every day. That should be on there. And then in other cases, they said, you know what, this one is more aspirational. I know you want the company to be that way, but we are currently not. And so for me, it's important to have core values that we actually live almost all of the time. Because if you, as an example, if you have safety as a core value, but you're really not a safety company and none of the managers really care about safety,
Yeah.
then that kind of makes all of your core values meaningless, because you know that first one's not true, so all of the other ones must be false as well. So yeah, so our exercise will be going further into the organization, getting that feedback, giving them that, say, hey, we think that this is what they are. What do you think? And then getting that feedback back, and then usually we would go back again, saying, okay, here's a revised version. What do you think? And then that's usually pretty close to where we end up.
And that's probably in a way how you would unify like the branches across Canada as well, as when those are set in place, they know what their goal is, or like they know those values when they're going into work.
For sure. And there will be a few values that are common across the company, right? Safety, If I was to guess, there's common ones like safety, teamwork, learning, customer service, right? Like those are pretty important ones at our company that I think everyone would say, yeah, those are pretty good. So we have to go through that. But at the same time, all the offices don't have to be the same. I don't, there's a unique culture. If there's like a heavy equipment shop, like a shop where we have a lot of our heavy duty mechanics in Quebec, like in rural Quebec, that's going to be very different than one of our offices that is just like a high volume sales kind of place in the Greater Toronto area. Like they'll be totally different, and there can be some common themes like teamwork and safety, but I don't think they should be the same. I think if we try to make all of our businesses exactly the same, then they'll all be mediocre. So I think they need to keep what's special inside of each individual office, just like our Tundra business. It has some things that are special, and I don't think we should change them to the Wajax way, and I don't think we should change the Wajax way to the Tundra way, because they're separate and they do their things really well. And if you start really messing with the culture too much, you kind of get people leaving too. So it's a delicate balance that we manage.
That's really interesting. The independent for each location, to me, just knowing like when I actually when you work out in like an office and you're working on that heavy equipment, that does make a lot of sense, because every area, every location, the people are going to be different. Their backgrounds are going to be different. So that's a great outlook on it. Did you just come up with that basically just through your work at Tundra, or did that develop over time, seeing how the people work at the different offices?
I think most of that came in my time at Tundra. So within Tundra, we had a Calgary corporate head office, right? And so that business we had a lot of salespeople there, a lot of kind of engineering technical people, and a warehouse that sold parts. Like that's most of the business. We have some technicians there too, but it was kind of more of a corporate head office. And then in Edmonton, we have a valve shop with all of our super talented valve repair technicians. And it's just two different cultures, right? Like they can't be the same.
No.
Because it's different kinds of people that care about different things, that do different things. And when we started to open up offices even further in the field, like in Grand Prairie or Fort St. John, we saw that, and it's not a divide, we just saw the difference even more. And to try to make your Grand Prairie kind of like semi-rural field office the same as a corporate head office or the same as an office in Toronto, I just think that that's a mistake. All those people are unique and they do things a unique way. And I think they should continue that with a common set of core values and some kind of vision where they can all say, okay, well, our work here is contributing to that bigger thing that we're all going towards.
Yeah, that's a great answer to that. This is a little bit of an oddball question, so maybe there hasn't been, but was there ever like a book or anything that you read that like really that you found very helpful for, well, now your position now? I'm just really curious on the leadership side. Has there ever been any literature that you've read that's been helpful in the progression?
Tons, yeah. So I don't know if there's any one book that I hold up as the gospel, and I don't know that anybody does, right? Like you read these books throughout your career and you take the little bits of the ones that you like and you kind of create your own view, and then sometimes people take that and write their own book.
Yeah.
But some books that I really do like that have that I refer to more often than others. There's some really great ones. One's called Good to Great. It's a pretty well-known business book. It's what makes good companies turn into great companies, and there's a number of factors. It's all really research based, and I really enjoy that book. Read it a number of times.
Okay.
Another book I really like is The Happiness Advantage, and that one's all about mindset and how to be happy with what you have, which ultimately leads to more success. So that was a really great one. And then there's one called The Leadership Challenge, and that's the most leader type book out of those three. And it talks about how do you cascade a vision? How do you do things around core values with your teams, and how do you have crucial conversations and empower people, and those kind of things. So it's not a management book; it's a leadership
Right.
book, which I really enjoyed. So those are three that I really like. There's lots of others, but
Yeah.
whenever I talk about books with people, those just always seem to come up to the top of the list.
Yeah, it's fascinating because I think I've only heard of one of these. So that's why I love asking about like what people have read, because everybody has a different, they have a different book that's spoken to them. So it's always,
Yep.
like you said, you kind of take all the pieces in. I really like that. That's great, Iggy. Thank you so much for joining the Crownsmen Show. Obviously, it's been fantastic learning about your new role with Wajax, and yeah, it's wishing you all the success with the company in the coming years. This has been fantastic to learn from you during this conversation.
Thanks very much, Rory. Pleased to be here and wishing you all the best as well.
Thanks a lot. So thanks everybody for watching. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on all of our platforms, whether it's YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. You can follow all of our content on LinkedIn as well. And also make sure you connect with Iggy or give him a follow. We'll have his link in the description as well, along with links to the website. And thank you everybody for watching, and we'll see you soon.